distinguished speakers and experts, I welcome you all to the first Squirro webinar this year on the topic Mastering Virtual Selling for B2B, with the subtitle The Future of Sales in the Age of Augmented Intelligence. If we believe Gartner's predictions, in only 3 years' time, over 80% of B2B sales interactions will happen on digital channels. In other words, in a few years, if we believe him, in the B2B market, almost all sales-related communication will be digital. And to succeed in this future, one has to know what that future looks like. And there are many new challenges emerging in the sales world, from managing growing amounts of data and information up to upskilling sales representatives and managing new channels to interact with customers and clients. So this virtual webinar today aims at locating some success factors in this future. What are new trends that are emerging and which one are really meant to stay? What are concrete experience experts already did and what solutions did they find to meet them? And I'm thrilled that we have a great group of sales experts today with us. Kamal Eslardi, Ariel Lüdi, and Dorian Seltz will join us later. And for all of you who don't know me yet, my name is Gabriel Rockley, and I'm the current CEO of C-Level, exchange platform for executives in Switzerland. And for all our members, for all our executives, new sales channels are a big topic as well. So I was honored when Dorian asked me to lead through this webinar today. And I'm happy to welcome so many live viewers today, despite the high temperatures. As a small payback, we make a lucky draw among all attendees. So you all have the chance to win a free copy of the upcoming book by one of our speakers, Kamal Eslardi's The Human Side of Digital Business Transformation, which is not yet released, but will be soon. So if you win, you belong to a very VIP group who gets a copy of the book before its actual publication. After this short introduction, I'd like to give you a quick overview over today's program. We try to keep it as concise as possible, and we'll first dive into how digitalization is disrupting traditional selling with a view by Kamal Eslardi. Secondly, we hear a private assessment from a sales leader in the field on how to best use augmented intelligence to really upskill the sales process by Ariel Lüdi. And finally, we really want to go into concrete details. So we look at concrete real-life use cases together with Dorian Seltz on how augmented intelligence is already used today. This is wrapped up by a Q&A where me and all the speakers try to answer questions from the audience, which you can post anytime into the chat. So don't hesitate if you have any questions. With that, I want to hand over the floor and would like to invite Kamalas to join me with her camera. Well, here you go. Welcome, Kamalas. For all of you who don't know her yet, Kamalas, I will introduce you shortly. Kamal Eslardi is, congratulations to this new position you just got, Managing Director, Switzerland at Valtech, an international agency specialized in this digital transformation. And if I may say so, they can be very happy to have got you as a team member, because you bring a very broad experience in this field with over 20 years, having been concerned with digital transformation. And you worked in leading positions already at Zurich, at Deloitte, at other companies. Adding to that, you're also chair of Forbes Women's Council. You're a frequent university lecturer here in Switzerland. And congratulations also to your soon-to-be published book. And I mean, all your endeavors didn't get unnoticed. You were named one of the top 10 global thought leaders in digital transformation by Thinkers 360. And Capgemini named you one of the most influential people in their group 40 over 40. So I'm very curious to hear what you have to say on the subject. and would like to hand over to you, Tamalas.
Thank you so much, Gabriel. That was a really nice introduction, and I'm really honored to be here. It's truly a pleasure. So allow me to share my screen, and then we can just jump right in. Hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here to talk about the future of sales, something that impacts probably everyone in the business community. Now, it is really the end of business as usual for sales organizations. The traditional sales approach is quickly becoming less and less valid. The customer buying behavior, channels and tools, sales strategies, as well as the customer journey has been completely disrupted over the last couple of years. According to a recent survey by McKinsey in the post-COVID era, 33% of B2B decision makers are actually taking a preference to seller-free environments, preferring to focus on self-service as well as online channels for their acquisitions. And 65% of them say that this approach is either equal to or even better than the traditional sales approach. So we as selling organizations and sales leaders need to rewrite the playbook for B2B sales, focusing more on this digital first engagement with our customers. So there we go. And there has been an incredible explosive growth in interactions between buyers and suppliers over the digital and self-service online channels, essentially breaking this traditional sales model. The coronavirus pandemic accelerated our appetite for and adoption of these digital acquisition channels across most industries. Now, millennials and digital natives have also created this new generational preference. They're coming into the workforce and they're also becoming decision makers in either procurement teams, acquisition teams, and generally within organizations, opting for more digital and self-service channels, and they perceive less value from interactions with sales representatives outside of just general education and learning. People have become more accustomed to digital interactions. They're looking for hyper-personalized interactions and predictive interactions that we typically get from companies like Amazon and Netflix. And we're also looking for seamless and frictionless interactions, the same level of experience across all channels that we interact with organizations, and flexibility across these channels as well. So we're buying where we want, when we want, whenever we want, as much as we need. And these interactions are coming from users who are eventually becoming our business users as well. We have become accustomed to using these channels in our B2C experiences, and we're starting to look for them in our B2B experiences as well. And it's really hard not to make these unflattering comparisons between the traditional B2B sales environment with these advanced digital experiences that we get from digitally enabled companies and online interactions through B2C environments. Now, the sales environment has also shifted away from a product focus into a more experience focus. And this means customers are turning towards this digital environment, the combination of digital and physical. We have a range of new touch points, and these repetitive administrative interactions that used to take precedent are now being pushed into the background as we automate and digitize the sales process. Now, customers are looking then for these experiences, moments of truth, where we can emotionally engage and create fulfilling experiences from the buyer journey. And this is where sales leaders need to focus for the future of sales. The buyer journey has completely transformed. It now involves many different interaction points and follows this complex, non-linear path. There are so many touch points that include digital and physical channels that can influence the buyer decision. And the decisions are not just influenced by these touch points, but also the ability for us to understand the complex institutional changes that are happening within organizations, these changes that are disrupting operational barriers and market considerations. So for a sales leader to be truly successful in these sort of environments, they need to address the uncertainties that exist in these new transformative environments, but also try to match the seamless, easy, and informative standards of experience that customers are getting from B2C digital platforms. For example, complex interactions in traditional industries where in-person engagement was typically seen as priority, such as commercial real estate transactions, they're moving towards digital immersive virtual environments as well. So we can now view real estate spaces, we can digitally try them out based on our preferred configurations and not have a single touch point or personal interaction with sales representatives. So in the next 5 years, sales leaders who fail to create these rich, immersive digital experiences really risk alienating customers and losing business as an outcome. The future of sales requires sales organizations to merge their understanding of customers, sales processes, technology application, and data into a single operational practice. And this is where you can stand out and create effective, impactful sales structures. From the people perspective, sales leaders now need to truly get a deep understanding for who their customers are and how they behave. And in this digital physical environment, the boundaries between marketing and sales are quickly becoming blurry. Sales leaders and teams need to redefine the customer journey and personas in close interaction with marketing teams to gain deeper insights into the buyer journey. And also critical here is to be able to streamline the process and gain access to those buyers, create touch points on physical and digital areas, as well as nurture these customers through the sales funnel. From a process perspective, the buyer process does not conform to any specific sales approach or style. In order to be successful in this noisy, overcrowded virtual space, sales teams need to be more adaptive. They need to adopt a digital mindset, focusing on building trust and demonstrating expertise in creating these lasting emotional and impactful engagement points with their customers. Now, from a technology perspective, emerging technologies and digital channels offer the opportunity for hyper-automation, really automating and augmenting the buying process. And technology creates the opportunity today for us to scale acquisition journeys and channels at truly low costs, replicating these experiences across channels and simulating a hyper-personalized interaction at very low cost. Now, sales team, on the other hand, need to upskill themselves and build capabilities around the application of these new tools, as well as the potential capabilities that they bring into the sales process. Now, from a data perspective, this is one of the most exciting areas. With the use of all of these new digital and online platforms, we have gained access to so much more data that allows us to create intelligent insights about the customers that we're working with, about the organizations that we're selling to. And so now we have these data and insights that allow us to really truly understand who our customers are, what their buyer journey is, and of course, what kind of products and services they are interested in, how they utilize those, and in which areas we can optimize our sales process. The B2B sales organizations need to really shift away from this experience-based, intuition-based selling into a data-driven selling process. And this really requires sales organizations to capture, organize, clean, and query data systematically and apply them across the sales process. Now, what we truly need to understand for the future of sales is successful B2B sales depends on integration of this people, process, and technology, and allowing these three elements to truly utilize granular data to enable sales and create value for our customers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kamalas, for very interesting insights. So as I mentioned before, if you have any questions for Kamalas, just type them into the Q&A. We will collect them all and answer them together in the Q&A wrap-up. Thank you a lot again, Kamalas, and I would like to welcome already our next keynote speaker on the virtual stage. For this, I'd like to invite an inspiring person to take the stage with me and ask you, Ariel, to join me with your video. In the meantime, hi there, Ariel. I have to admit, Ariel, your CV is as crazy as it gets, and I really have to tell people a little bit about your background so they understand how you became the person you are today. So going back a little bit in your personal story, after you dropped out of your physics degree, you went to IBM as a young man and started as a developer From there, you went on to Oracle, where you discovered your passion and talent for sales, which led you later to SVP of sales position at Broadvision, at Salesforce, whereafter you became CEO of Hybris. And having to handle a lot of C-levels, I have to say you did something not every CEO would do. You invested all your previous earnings into the company. You even went into debt until you later then spectacularly sold Hybris to SAP in 2013 for over 1.5 billion. And even at this point, you didn't say, well, I want to retire on this success. You went on, you founded one of the most successful growth accelerators here in Switzerland, namely the Hammer team. And last but not least, one thing in your CV I think has to be mentioned. Without it, the story would not be complete. Your hobby, which kind of connects a little bit to your sales skills. So you were parachute stuntman and teacher. And I imagine, like, when you can persuade people to jump out of a plane, you're probably able to sell them almost everything. Thank you a lot for being here, Ariel, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. Thanks for being here. Yeah, like you mentioned, I've been in the B2B space most part of my life. And as you can see, I'm on the older side. So I've been around the block, climbing up through these different roles, and have seen a little bit what's working and what has not been working. Selling technology is one thing. Hearing that technology will replace everything. I've been through so many waves that this new thing will replace everything that we have done before. I don't buy it anymore. It's a little bit the same with this virtual selling thing. I don't believe in Gartner's prediction, to be honest. It will be a mix of the older way, human factor, using augmented intelligence to make things better. So that's what I would like to talk about a little bit. I mean, there are more or less two sales motions for B2B software, also for consumer software, but I have no experience there. One is a product-led growth, and the other one is a sales-led growth. As we all know, product-led growth is usually simpler products. People try it out, they experience it, and then they purchase it, usually with not much human intervention or nothing at all. So like when you try out, as a smaller company, maybe a CRM system, you try it out, and then you purchase the subscription or some other productivity tools. So that's the product-led growth. And in that motion, the goal is that the campaign management system is reaching out to potential customers who actually have a need for what you are selling. So in that motion, I actually see quite a lot of benefits having augmented intelligence empowered processes, so that the campaign management tool and outbound management tool is actually creating the right lists, the right targets, and sending out the emails, or maybe they have some BDRs, business development representatives, doing calls. So it helps to focus on targets that actually are receptive to the value proposition that you're selling. But mostly PLG, product-led growth, is a self-service motion. So it's more marketing combined with the product itself. Actually, Salesforce, we tried to have it as a product-led growth when was that, 2002, and at that time it failed. So that's actually why they hired me, and that's why I had to build up a human-based sales organization across Europe. The whole organization was nothing there, because people still wanted to talk to humans, especially when these are large ticket products or critical solutions for a company. They want to talk to somebody, want to get a feel of it, because sometimes they trust their career on that decision. And if it's 6 or 7 digit tickets, you want to make sure there's somebody there who's actually supporting you in case it doesn't work. So, but anyway, also in the product-led growth motions, I think augmented intelligence can help very much so on these campaigns and BDRs motions. The other one where it makes even more sense to have technologies that support the process is the sales-like motion. Sales meaning people. So again, that's for larger ticket items like large B2B software, an ERP system. I have 23 B2B software startups I'm invested in, and I'm heavily engaged. And except of one or two, they all have either just sales-led growth motions or with a little bit of product-led growth. So it's products where you need to understand what the customer needs or the prospects needs, and you might even have to adapt the product a bit to get it working so they can get the value out of it. We'll still need some people there. But in that process, usually start with lead generation, the beginning of the funnel, and there again, you have some marketing tooling that creates some leads first, maybe using some intelligence gathered from mostly external sources, maybe from social or whatever, creating, top funnel of the pipeline. And then it's being handed over to BDRs, business development representatives, who then try to make sense of this and pick the ones they think make most sense to either do an email campaign to, or even call these people up. And in the past, this was done by gut feel, yes, by trying to figure out, of learning about these companies, but it's a very time-consuming activity, and you need a little bit to understand the context of everything, and often this is not being done. I'll make a little example. Hammer Team, we just announced 2 days ago. We did a large round with one of the companies, and the second one that I did a new investment in a company. So startup CEOs looking for investors, we are reading these press releases, obviously, and then based on this one signal, they sent me their business plan and their pitch decks and so on. This happened in the last 2 days. I got several dozens of it. The problem is that 99% of those inbounds for me are totally useless because they missed other signals. If they would just have gone to my website or looked at some of the interviews that are out there that I've done, or they would know that I only do B2B software investments, nothing else. But I got pitch decks from B2C, consumer software, from biotech, from hardware companies, and so on. So this is a bad match. It wastes the time of, in this case, the CEO of a startup, and it nerves me that people do not take the time to understand who I am and what I'm actually looking for. So it's actually bad for both sides. So if a BDR or a system that's supporting a BDR is taking the right information, maybe from internal sources and from external sources, and creating a good call list for them to move forward, then you can avoid these situations, which are very unpleasant. I actually admire people who do BDR work, because 99% of the time they hear a no, they still keep on going. So that's tough. I never done that, and I don't think I could handle it. Even more value of augmented intelligence is then on the next step. And that's where the question is, will it be all virtual or will it be physical in the enterprise sales, in the new enterprise sales? I doubt it will be all virtual, like I mentioned before, but it will be a mix. So I see this with my startups. So some steps now in the sales process, which were in the past completely physical, even in the first meeting, you go there physical, the first demo is physical, then the follow-up meeting was physical. This has changed because it had to change because of Corona most of the times. Otherwise, those processes would have gone on like in the past. But because of Corona, we had to do these initial discussions and sometimes demo online. But we realized, we saw that during the Corona phase, is the closing then of these deals, or even the decision point of these sometimes long sales cycles. As you know, B2B software, 6 to 18 months, depending on what you're selling. This is a long time. did not happen or happen that often during Corona with purely online, purely virtual. Because again, these CEOs, the C-level purchasing, they need to have a feel, they have to get a feel of the people. So I think augmented intelligence and virtual selling will complement, and some phases of this whole sales cycle will actually be virtual, which makes the team more productive because they don't have to fly around the world the whole time. So how can they use it? You know, that the main key for me when I was in sales is situational awareness. By the way, I gave up skydiving, and for the last 10 years or so, I'm doing aerobatic flying and formation aerobatics. So it's always managed risk. It's like being a CEO, you have to manage risk and opportunity. And in flying, situational awareness is probably the most important thing. So like in a fighter jet, 5th generation fighter jet, they get so much signals from so many sources that without augmentation, they actually are totally lost. They're overwhelmed with data. It's same like in a company. So you get the data of how high you are and how fast, and how much fuel you have left, how much weapons are left, which one is selected, where is your enemy, what speed are there, the relative positioning, and so on. So much information, even from ground stations, from the AWACS plane on top. So the whole idea of the 5th generation fighters, like the F-35, is to actually make from this raw data, raw signals, give them a situational awareness, give them a picture of what the situation is, and also give the pilot options, what he or she could be doing. Attack with this type of weapon or go or whatever. So and that's the same thing that we need in sales. You know, I don't know how many times it happens, for instance, going to an existing customer, we have a new product at Salesforce or a new module or at Oracle, whatever, and I call my best customers up. Usually you have a good relationship, so you can talk to the C-level quite quickly, or to important people. I go there, you know, full of energy, try to make a deal. And the moment I enter the room, I see all these people sitting, 10 people instead of one, all with red faces, because I was not aware that actually the system was down. Because I didn't look in the ticketing system before I left. I didn't check the CRM system. I didn't check all the mails that were going on. Or maybe they didn't pay an invoice for the last 3 months. So I did not have the situational awareness of the customer at that moment, although the data was there. You know, at Salesforce, obviously we had Salesforce and many other systems, and Oracle as well. But they were not brought together in context for me to prepare myself for the call, could be virtual interaction, or for the physical visit. And many times I walked into the open knife there and emergency situations because I was not aware what the current situation is. So augmented intelligence will give for the enterprise sales guy probably hopefully the same situational awareness that I would expect from a 5th generation fighter plane. So there will be no surprises. I really hate surprises, even positive ones. That means I was not aware of certain things. So I just should know what's going on. This is not just a contextual collection of exactly what this customer, the communication, the situation is going on from internal data sources, but obviously also from external data sources, what in their press releases, in their annual report, press coverage they got, Twitter, whatever, or maybe even job openings, you know, sometimes a good signal to see that they're starting a new project. So a system that brings this all together and gives me the situational awareness that I'm actually addressing the right thing. Am I in repair mode? Am I in selling mode? What are we going to walk into it? And that's where I believe augmented intelligence and Squirro especially can add a lot of value. I wish I would have had a system like Squirro at the time, and I could have avoided some really nasty interactions with my customers, but also with new clients. then maybe it's more the focus on external data. Which customer should I go after? Did something happen? Is it confirmed? Does it have a follow-on capabilities? And what should be the next best action that I could be doing? So this type of intelligence, that's really helping me. I don't think there will be automated, AI in pure and automated selling process for high-end B2B products. The ticket price is just too high, the risk is just too high, but it can make my life much, much easier. And I can actually follow many more sales campaigns at the same time as a sales or as a sales leader, because I don't have to manually, which I did in the past. I searched the web, I searched some systems, but sometimes you don't have the time and you would like to have it just by clicking on a button. And that's where augmented intelligence will help. And again, it will be, as always, a combination of old and new, maybe delivered more through an online channel, but humans will be involved and augmented intelligence will be involved, and sometimes more and more virtual channels will be involved. So that's how I see it. Gabriel?
Thanks very much for a good insight as well into like your stance to the topic. Thanks a lot. And now I'm curious about the next keynote, because we heard now many new trends or challenges or how this future will look like. And now we would like to ask the last speaker to also give us a little bit of reality check on the real possibilities in the present and the future. So I ask you, Dorian, to join me on stage. And I would, in the meantime, there you are, Dorian, welcome you as well and introduce you real quick for the viewers. Dorian, you're co-founder and CEO of Squirro, where you specialized in helping companies with augmented intelligence. We heard so much now. And before that, you were already a successful businessman because you founded the Swiss search platform local.ch. I didn't know that, quite impressive, and made it a market leader in a short time. Previous to that, you were also in leading positions at Namix, one of the largest e-business consultancy services here in Switzerland and Germany. You hold a PhD in economics from St. Gallen and Geneva, and you were also named in one of these rankings, actually from two leading Swiss newspapers, Bilanz and Le Temps, who have named you as one in the Hall of Fame of the top 100 digital shapers here in Switzerland. So I'm very curious about your insights and hand over the word to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And also thank you to my colleagues, panelists. Thank you for spending time with us and making that wonderful introduction, and to you, Ariel, for switching a plane cockpit for a sales cockpit on today's webinar. Privileged to be here and walk you through a couple of the insights that we have gathered. And I really want to pick up where you, Carlos, started this afternoon with. You spoke about rich experiences, rich digital experiences. You spoke about that it's important to offer salespeople, but also customers, such a rich immersive experience. And you, Ariel, you led the talk with this product versus sales-led approaches in business selling. And I want to pick up where you left with the three short elements, a bit about why sales insights from what we've seen in the marketplace, but also talk and walk you through a short demo. It's always fun to not only talk about things, but actually see things. And I'll make that a live presentation to the audience here. And then if time permits, we can look at a couple of customer successes that we have seen with customer of ours and how they applied such technologies and transformed their sales organizations. Sales insights, sales intelligence challenges. We heard about that. It's a complex world. It's a digital world. There's lots of lead generation pressure. There is lots of complexity, which leads to longer and more complex sales cycles. And quite often, Ariel, you just told a bit about your own experience. You turn up at the place and effectively get burned because you missed an insight. You had no sales signals, or if it's not sales signals, at least as an example, support signals, something happening. And matter of fact, Gartner did a bit of research in this. About 85% of businesses today they would technically know about this, but they just don't make use of that data. That data is split along different lines of businesses within such a company. There is sales, there is marketing, there is service. There is maybe a research department that does all types of research into customer relationships, but all of these data sets are all around the business, but not centralized where, as an example, a sales executives would need them. Consequence of that, long sales cycles, often client dissatisfaction. We heard about that from my colleagues, and actually missed opportunities. Now, how can you deal with that? And I want to touch briefly on how we deal with that. Our view is, if you'd be able to actually create such a real-time insight dashboard that allows you to pick the best of all of these data sources and package that into an actually living 360-degree type view, where you can get an insight about where is the customer relationship, what's happening, what is the talking points that we need to raise with our colleagues on the other side. Maybe also in a large organization. I'm sitting here in an office in Zurich. I have colleagues in London. I have colleagues in Singapore. I have colleagues in New York. And it's not the time zone that is obviously a difference, but also there is a geographical difference. Somebody's on holidays or so. If I suddenly pick up the phone and talk to a client of mine, what have my colleagues done with their counterparts of that same client in another zone? All of these, to have all of that automatically in my hand as a decision support instrument, that actually gives me a competitive edge. And we have proof points for that. I come to some of the customer success cases. Doing this well has a direct positive revenue impact. Next to customer satisfaction numbers that go up, simply because you don't call for a generic type of sales call, but you call with a specific idea in mind, with a specific challenge in mind, a specific solution in mind, that you can discuss with your opposite counterparty at that prospect. And then again, it is about what Ariel, you mentioned. It's about big ticket elements that are at the end of the day sold rather by trust than pure by product, like you laid it out as an example for complex software like CRM at Salesforce. With that, that's enough for theory at the moment. I want to go to a quick demo. To frame the demo and on the audience here to understand what I'm going to show you in live, here just a bit of a walkthrough. What we have here, what you're going to see in a moment, we have taken actually our own data. So what you're going to see is our own, that is Squirro's own data. We have taken our own data from Salesforce, from Exchange. We have a small SharePoint installation for historical reasons. We have Confluence. We have Jira for ticketing. We also do process external data sets from various data sources from outside our company. That is publicly available news streams, but also premium news streams from some of our partners. All of this data then comes into our platform, where we have that three-step process. It's called gather, understand, act. We take the data in, we start to kind of like look and check what kind of like key entities are in these data feeds. We try to stitch together a data fabric, a uniform data fabric. Once we have that, we apply various models, sentiment models, topical models, to recognize intent in those tickets. That is the insight at the end. And when we have done all of that, we give you access. We give you access where you work. That's very important. It should not be yet another dashboard, yet another application. You have enough in almost all of the organizations that I have come across, especially in sales. Often it's focused and centered around a robust CRM application. That can be Salesforce, the system that we at the moment use. That can also be Dynamics from Microsoft that we integrate with, or HubSpot or other such CRM solutions. It can be email. Most of us still use email as the prevalent form of communication. And that's where you work. And that's where you want to have all of this integrated in one single interface. So that's enough theory. Now let's go and do a bit of a live demo, if you may. And I actually start in my mailbox. So what you see here is my mailbox, where I get on a regular number of times a day updates about my top accounts. Obviously, as a CEO of the company, I look at my own company. This is exactly what Ariel has been talking about. That is our ticketing system that gives me an update on some ticket that confirms or actually is about the customer of mine. It also talks about some of the customers where I am the sponsor on behalf of us as a company. Bank of England is a customer of ours. I will not now disclose all of that, obviously, for good reason. Central Bank, another European central bank where you do work. But I also can then see kind of like where my top trending communities are. And as we have already spoken about Salesforce, why not pick Salesforce? So I simply see here everything from all the places that we have figured where Salesforce has been mentioned in relation to the work I do. And I can go through that. And as an example, I see here some interaction that my team did. Apparently, my team is in discussion to sponsor the New York World Tour of Salesforce. Yeah, it could be interesting. Here's effectively an email that comes from some place. I want to know a bit more. With one click, I'm actually in Salesforce. Salesforce needs a moment to load. Zoom might make it a bit slower. I have here the detail, and now I can go into the account at Salesforce. This is our live account. This is all we have within Salesforce. And here we have now integrated Squirro straight into this environment. It on the fly computes me a complete augmented intelligence view on Salesforce, where I see sort of the engagement levels. We have introduced that in this instance as of January. That's why you don't see much data before. We have computed sentiment, overdue tasks. It's actually a mistake. It's actually the activity tracker here. So 162 activities in the last 60 days. And now comes the interesting point. Here we start to have insights. So our relationship with Salesforce seems to show positive sentiment, even though at the moment the interaction patterns have a bit decreased compared to early in the year. You see that. You have a lot of interactions with them over the past about the year, 1,111. You also get to see actually what people have been doing. Again, this is the call note we just saw. It is at one place. Instead of going through all the different places, I have it here. And obviously, Ariel, I think you mentioned this, you also have now updates in and around the Salesforce ecosystem. As an example here, an integration of Box into Salesforce. But that's just for starters. I can now obviously go and see as an example here, apparently there is positive sentiment. So actually, let's look at that. Why is that? Why is that positive sentiment? In one click, I get to see here who is talking to whom about what, right? I get to see sort of what created that positive sentiment. It's all around the Insights engine. It's all around that interaction between Fabio and other colleagues of mine. And if I want to have even more insight how that works, I can actually get an engagement map. So kind of like who of Salesforce, here to the left, speaks with who at my company over the last 90 days. And obviously at each stage, you can dive in and see who does what at what stage between them and us. I get the complete informational package on what happens. I will now deselect this and go back. Obviously, I have a few more things. Very interesting as an example. I see not only engagement levels, I also get a live computed interaction level, sentiment level, where you see that at the moment there seems to be a regular interaction, positive sentiment. Every about other week seems to be my team making those preparations for that New York Salesforce tour in a very positive cooperative spirit. That's in very short what I wanted to show you. Obviously, we could go now also to notes, and we can go also to news and all of the rest of it. But you, I think, get the gist of it, how that integrates into a workbench such as Salesforce. The same, obviously, can be done also in your mailbox, because here, in the context of the mail, we can do exactly the same trick. In the context of what I've seen here, I can start to show you who, what, how's happening in and around my top accounts. And I hope with that, the next time you walk into a business, Ariel, you're not getting it burned, because I don't know what mistake happened, but you're actually informed. You have all the insights, you have all the triggers of making this a success. To end this brief demonstration how customers ours have been using that, I picked 3 to show a bit where and how that can go to. Standard Chartered, I think, doesn't need introduction. Every soccer fan knows them from the Liverpool jerseys. For all the others, it's a large bank, predominantly active in the UK, but also in Southeast Asia. They have retained us to help them in their global banking operation. to do exactly what I've shown you now. That is, give global banking sales account executives insightful information about their top accounts. These are all multi-bank accounts. So on the other side, it's large multinational corporations where Standard Chartered is just one of many banking providers. So for those global banking as account executives at Salesforce, it's super important to know what, how, where their clients are active, what they do, intends to invest, intends to divest, because these are all signals for the bank to engage. We've built that for them in what they call strategic client insights. The impact is significant because what it allowed them to do is it allowed those global bankers to uncover cross-sell opportunities between and in existing customer relationships like never before, where they have effectively about 5% additional cross-sell value generated within the span of about 2 years during the pandemic. The next one is institutional asset management. Camdrium is a subsidiary of the New York Life Investment Company in Paris. So they cater to pension schemes that allocate effectively our pension monies. And Camdrium is one of those providers that do that on behalf of those pension schemes. This is a competitive marketplace simply because if a pension scheme comes with a mandate to say invest 200 million in say fast-moving consumer good shares, there are multiple Camdriums, if I may say so, that try to bid for that business. So what we do there, sales insights, but this time focused on the asset management space by effectively figuring out where Camdrium funds perform on multiple dimensions. These are financial dimensions, but also quality assessment dimensions, but also how well they fit such a pension scheme mandate to that specific pension scheme mandate over competing funds. Whenever such a difference is actually detected, this translates straight into a sales lead. Result of the affair, within about 9 months, they have paid for the whole 3-year project. That delta is nothing else than a straight sales lead that a sales executive of them can take to any pension scheme and translate into a deal with that pension scheme. Now, some of you might wonder, is this only for financial services companies of all shapes, forms, and types? No, it is not. This works as much and as well and as good for any other industry. I picked one industrial client of ours, Armacell, an industrial foam producer in the US. We work for the US business. Multitude of systems, has a bit of a history, Armacell acquiring a couple of other companies. Also a very distributed organization, small headquarter in the area of New York, but then production facilities across the nation. And it is important for that distributed sales force to be in the know what happens with customers, what products have been discussed, what product issues have been uncovered, what opportunities are there maybe to expand. So again, same trick, take all these data, find out these sales insights, in this case around these industrial products, and you immediately get the benefit of an increased efficiency and actually a significantly better satisfaction rates at customers of theirs in the highly competitive automotive supplier business. Their numbers are excellent. We're not allowed to disclose them, but it's again the same thing. The ROI of this solution has been achieved in a very short time frame. So to end, what is an option? What is an option to go forward for you esteemed audience, for us together? We only can encourage you to go that road, to make more use of your data sets, because it is decision intelligence that, if you don't use it, is simply a wasted opportunity. And you can start easy by, as an example, providing to your colleagues and people in the sales and marketing areas of your organization a complete 360 view that gives an element of a complete total client engagement, a bit of that what I've shown you today, to understand how and where to go. And what you can then do is next best action to your sales team. In the moment you combine these type of views with, as an example, your product suite, your elements where you want to go campaigning for, then it becomes fascinating, because you actually can uncover sales opportunities like never before. That's where I think the ultimate goal shall be of such an augmented intelligence solution. With that, I want to come to an end and hand back To you, Gabriel, and I think we have now time for a few questions, if you agree. Thank you so much.
Exactly. Perfect. Thanks a lot for all your interesting insights. Now we're at the final wrap-up and Q&A. I now ask all speakers to turn out their camera again and join me here together with Dorian on the virtual stage for the final Q&A, where we, as promised, open the floor to our viewers at home. And looking through the chat, we have many interesting questions, much too many. I'd like to probably start with you, Kamales. Someone in the audience asked where you locate the biggest hurdles or roadblocks. I mean, in this whole transformation process of a sales organization, and maybe, I mean, you're quite long in the field. Maybe you also found some solutions you want to give the viewers on their journey.
Definitely. I think the biggest roadblock or the biggest issue that we see, not just in terms of sales organizations and virtual selling, but also generally in digital transformation across organizations, is the mindset shift. The shift towards understanding the capabilities of technology, the shift towards understanding how we can combine technology with the physical environment and how we can best make use of that. And making sure that, you know, the people involved, so in this case, sales teams, are fully upskilled and have the capabilities to understand how this shift is happening and what can be done. So a lot of times we find that application of tools like Squirro, as well as training and education, is very impactful with teams where they can fully understand capabilities, they can fully understand how to apply these technologies. And that helps with the mindset shift. And also having sales leaders, making sure that they drive this agenda and demonstrating these changes towards their organization and their team members helps a lot with the mindset shift as well. A second piece, I would say, which is quite big, and I'm constantly surprised when I work with organizations, is the fact that the customer journey and personas are still not fully defined, or defined in a more modern way when we take into account the physical and digital environment that we are doing business in today. So whether it's a product or service sales, there's always an element of deep diving into the customers, understanding their preferences, how the product or service is used within their environment, what is the demand today, what are the preferences for the future, how industries are going to shift. All of these elements need to be taken into account. So having a really strong understanding for the connected customer environment, how the new channels and new touch points make an impact within these environments, and how we can start really utilizing data to understand our customers on a much deeper level. Those things are really going to be quite impactful. Another element that I wanted to mention, which I think Dorian really he demonstrated it so well with the tool as well, is this interconnected environment, building a space or a business environment where you have the connection between the people, the processes, as well as the technology that are able to truly utilize data. A powerful tool, for example, like Squirro, is not going to be very useful in an environment where they're not interconnected, where people don't know how to use them within their processes, where the data is not being applied in the right places, where the insights are not being used for decision making. So it's really important to create an environment that can actually make the best use of the technologies and data that's made available to them.
Moving on to you, Dorian. I mean, a similar question in the chat was asked to you as well, in the direction of like how a successful path of this implementation can look like, and maybe also shifting a little bit to your view behind the scenes, what it really takes and what maybe also can go wrong, or what you really want to give the viewers on their journey.
The go wrong is such a typical Swiss question, isn't it? In return for what could go well. But it's a fair question to ask, because you deal with effectively a variety of data sets that by definition don't necessarily fit together. So, give you an example. Pyramid data feed, say from Refinitiv, talks about Salesforce incorporated into full kind of like stock listed name. Your colleagues in sales might have actually simply written in Salesforce in your own CRM system, Salesforce or maybe SFDC, their stock ticker symbol. How do you get those two things together? So, there are a couple of elements that you need to take care of, and that's actually one of the risks of any such project, of how to construct automatically such a unified data fabric. Let's assume we get past that stage. How is it actually best approached? our review is a very pragmatic one. Start small, build out. Start as an example with a simple connecting those different silos together and simply give at the fingertips, say in the workplace, you're most often spend your time, say mail, an element like I showed it towards the end of a cognitive search solution that simply points to what you need to know about a specific customer account. Isn't too difficult to do. Value is there. It gives you a good foundational element and gets you started quickly. And then you start to build on top. Next step, you as an example, take some standard, say, sentiment scoring models, you take some standard intent models and start to kind of like do what I've shown you before, kind of like get character to an sales relationship. Is it positive, or if it's negative, why is it negative? And if it's positive, where are the points that you can reinforce? Like I've shown it to you before. Next level, third level, and that's obviously a bit the secret sauce. That's also why I didn't show that in full, but happy to reach out and then show that to you in detail, is if you then start to add models that are really intent models specific to your business. Say in our case, if I talk about ourselves, we're obviously interested to figure out if a client organization we talk with is ready to buy a complex IT augmented intelligence product. There are various ways to kind of like capture these type of signals from interaction patterns, email, from outside signals, package them into a model and hand deliver that, so to speak, in again the work place you're active in. That is your calendar, that is your email, that is your CRM, so as to be in the know when you go and meet your opposite at the prospect organization. Those three steps done in a consecutive manner gets you buy-in, gets you value, it gets you the results you deserve.
Very good. Ariel, to you finally. Anything you'd like to add to these points, or maybe also shifting a little bit from what can go wrong also to opportunities you locate in the current situation?
Well, again, I can only urge, but let's say all sales managers of sales know what they would actually need. And there were some false starts in the past of promises like 360 customer view has been around, I don't know, for 10 years, but that was a simple keyword search. And then you got hundreds of results and you still had to, search through them and you had no clue. There were log entries, all kinds of stuff. And it didn't really help you, but the marketing of these companies were really good. So the C-level bought the stuff and actually frustrated sales management and the sales. So some of the sales leaders I talked to, they're kind of apprehensive with these new technologies because they've gone down that route and they just actually made their life worse than better. But to those people, I have to say, times have moved on, technology has moved on. What Squirro can do with the models, with AI, augmented intelligence, it's actually reduced that list of results, if you call this a search, and bring together in context from many different systems, everything in one place. And it actually works. So it's the first time when I see this 360 customer view is actually really useful, and it hasn't been in the past. And the benefits are clear. It's mostly onboarding. I have, like I said, over 20 startups. Even now we hire a lot of people. Some of them are in hyper growth mode, so they hire up to 100 people a month. So how do you onboard a salesperson or sales manager? You don't have, with a system like Squirro, you don't have to train them on all these different, disparate systems, the ticketing system, this and this and this. You have your Salesforce, your CRM, or you have your mail, and the stuff is being served to you. So they don't have to know where all this stuff is hidden. So onboarding is dramatically reduced. And as we have seen, the productivity level of the sales are higher and the conversion rates are higher. So for me, this is actually a no-brainer. And I can only urge the community, my sales colleagues, to actually give it a try.
Very good. Kamales, Dorian, do you want to add anything to that? If not, I would, looking at the time, for time's sake, thank you at this point and try to come to an end with this webinar. For all viewers, if your question has not been answered yet, no worries. All speakers offers to answer the remaining questions after the event in a written form, so you can connect after the event easily with them. And now, coming to the end of this unique webinar, I hope you all took away a lot, or as much as I did. A big thank you once again for all you experts and speakers having joined us today. And of course, thank you to all you viewers for tuning in. Without you, none of this would have been possible or happening. And now I end by wishing you a beautiful remaining day. And we're looking forward to welcoming you soon again. Thank you.